let's discuss this even further with Leigh-Anne Jansen, a journalist who covered the story extensively. Leigh-Anne, very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. You really were big on the story when it broke. And looking back at the time that the story broke, I suppose South Africa was still on a high with the World Cup having taken place. And then this massive story breaks where we learn of newlyweds and a young bride being killed in the most horrific way. What do you recall as you captured the story and also went in to find the story behind the story, trying to establish who Annie is?
Good afternoon, Paul. As you just put it, we've just come off the high of the 2010 Soccer World Cup, and then this horrendous murder had taken place. And South Africans at that time were completely shocked. They were shattered and they were outraged, at least the South Africans I'd spoken to at that time. And from the beginning, the sentiment was that nobody thought that this was a crime that South Africans had committed, hence already pointing fingers at the alleged or suspected involvement of Anni Dewani's husband, Shrien. But what I can recall is that this story engulfed me. It took over my life every day for 4 years, from the 13th of November 2010 to December 2014, when Shrien Dewani was ultimately acquitted because the courts had found that the witnesses had perjured themselves.
And let's talk a little bit, Leigh-Anne, about, you speak about how involved you were in the story, and part of that included going in to find out about Annie and the Hindocha family and what a close-knit family they are. And, of course, as you and I, just before we were speaking, we heard from Annie's uncle, who is completely shattered. The family's heartbroken because they still want more clarity as to exactly what happened on that fateful day.
I've just actually come from seeing the family. They're on their way to the airport now to catch a flight home to Sweden. And I looked into Anni Dewani's father, Vinod's eyes, and he's a broken man. There's nothing there anymore. Also, just last week, they buried their mother. So the family has just been rocked by tragedies since Anni Dewani's murder. The family still wants answers it seems they're never going to get. Her uncle Ashok had also told me, like he said in the interview, that he had asked Zola Tongo to sit down with him and Vinod and tell them exactly what had happened, something that they've not been given since she was murdered in November 2010. And ultimately, Zola Tongo told them, I said what I said and I have nothing left to say. So justice has not been served. There is no justice for Anni Dewani, and it's unlikely there ever will be.
And part of what Annie's uncle said was also speaking about the South African legal system, the criminal justice system, saying that it sends a very strong message to criminals that you can do the crime and not serve the time.
They've lambasted the criminal justice system here, saying that it seems that the parole board had already made up its mind when they had gone to meet with it today, so that they had told the family that Zola Tongo had gone through all these programs, rehabilitation programs, in prison, and that's why he's a suitable candidate for parole, and didn't take into context or didn't take into consideration, rather, the family's victim impact statements and the family's opposition to Tongo's parole. So right now the family feels that the justice system has failed it. It feels that the justice system is failing all South Africans, and that it sends out a message to criminals that you can go ahead, commit crime, because no justice will ever be served.
Less than 4 years after Shrien Dewani, the alleged mastermind, was cleared, we saw a different lifestyle emerging. I mean, reports of him falling in love with a new man and also going to Mumbai, where he had his wedding with Annie. And the family also expressing their shock and really heartbroken that he would go as far as taking a new lover to the same place where he got married to Annie.
Correct. That was a huge shock for the family. It was somewhat of a shock within the media circles at the time as well. part of the state's case was to prove motive. And that motive was that Shrien Dewani was gay. On the first day of his trial, his lawyer then read out his plea explanation, in which he had told the court that he's bisexual and he had slept with male prostitutes, and that he had procured the services of male prostitutes and had also frequented gay fetish sites and gay hookup sites. So right there, out of the water, he had blown up the state's case. So to Shrien Dewani, he was bisexual. To the state, he was gay. Shortly after he was acquitted and was sent back to the UK to live his life, he then got involved with a Brazilian photographer. And all indications are that they're still together. They've gone on holiday in Mumbai, as you've just said, where Shrien Dewani had married Annie in a lavish 5-star luxurious wedding that spanned over days. Something that the family had questioned, how he could then take his new gay lover to the place that he had seemingly married the love of his life in 2010. That is something that still plays in the family's mind. The family had always said, if he was gay, he should have just said it, or if he was bisexual, he should have just said it. That they have nothing against the sexuality. They have something against what had happened to their daughter and niece. And they still have those questions. They still don't have any contact with the Dewanis. They haven't heard anything from Shrien Dewani since before he was undergoing psychiatric treatment in the UK for his extradition hearings.
Very heartbreaking indeed. Let's leave it there with Leigh-Anne Jansen, a journalist who covered the story extensively. Leigh-Anne, thank you for your time. Speaking there about how the Hindocha family is doing, of course, really speaking to a heartbroken family still in search of answers.